let's start out first, since we're talking about
Alright.
defense here. I think Diggers is the way to go to start out first. So when you look at the Diggers, Mr. Noreen, you looked at the stats, and of course, there's an interesting list we have here. What do you make from this particular list, and who do you feel surprised you the most in terms of at least the statistical output as we see the list there on screen?
Yeah, you know, I like that we're talking about these names now because like the number one in the list is Angela Nunag. When we saw the stats, everyone's like, oh my God.
Yeah, really.
I mean, from out of nowhere.
Crazy. Yeah.
And the irony of it all is Army didn't even win a single match, right?
Yeah.
But she's number one. It just goes to show that, you know, that could be the plan for Army. You know, the future is, okay, you have sound defense in
build from there.
Nunag. Yes. You build from there. You're right. You know, you build on how to get better, but your defense is okay. You're in a good place. So for me, Nunag had a crazy, crazy conference, and we're just so happy that, you know, her name stood out because she has been playing well.
All right, nothing new with the number 2 on your list, Kayla Atienza.
Yeah, nothing new. And of course, Boring Dorendes coming out at number 3. You take a look at this, number 1 and number 2 teams have their liberos in the top 3. How much of a difference will that make?
Well, same. If we go back to having sound defense, these teams are obviously comfortable already with the fact that their defense is set. You know, so if with our defense, I mean, for the teams, if they look at it, with our defense set in Kylie Atienza and Buding Dorendes, both top 10, I think, in both digging and receiving, then we have to focus on the other things we want to get better at. Maybe blocking, maybe, you know, our combination play. So it gives you the edge if you know that your defense is sound and these players have got your back. Got the whole back.
Yeah.
Of everybody.
Of everybody.
All right, let's move on to the best receivers this time. But before we go through your list, Ms. Noreen, how has been the first ball? The very crucial thing in this reinforced conference. Parang medyo highlight din siya ng whether or not one
team wins or loses. Yeah, it makes a difference.
Huge difference.
We always hear in every huddle is really one good pass.
One good pass.
One good pass. We hear that all the time because it's true. It makes a big difference. I mean, the first ball will really, you know, show if your team is like stable. Or are they rattled at this game now? We can take advantage.
I was going to say that maybe we hear it all the time because it never happens enough for the coaches. But then could be right. But then no, we all joking aside, we'll focus on the best receivers now. At least statistically speaking, we have the list here. It's Catarado, Gemma and Odina Alieva, and only one foreign guest player rather on this list. What does that say about the type of receiving that Catarado and Gemma produce here?
Catarado, for me, no stranger to being a great receiver, a great digger, or a best libero, right? I mean, when we saw the list based on the stats, I'm like, okay, another day in the office for Catarado.
Yeah.
But Gemma Galanza, for me, we know that she's really an offensive threat, and you love it when players really evolve into being complete players, that they develop their defense as well. No surprise because she has been really good in terms of defense. But yeah, it's good to highlight the foreign guest player because you mentioned it, just one, meaning our locals are actually playing really well, given that's a reinforced conference, and you should be happy because what do you want really is the level of volleyball to keep going up, you know, and the fans will really enjoy the games.
Yeah. Sorry, Z, I'm going to turn you a bit on the analyst here kasi syempre I'm looking at this list right now. Si Catarado with 105 excellent receptions, and you look at this efficiency here is 56.1%. Is that when you play against a person like Catarado, or at least, let's say, when you play against a Catarado, is that already part of your mind as someone who does attack, that Catarado can really pass, can really really make a big difference on the team?
Of course, definitely, that would always be part of your game plan, part of your scouting reports, part of your plan moving forward when facing the PLDT high-speed hitters. Like, una sa lahat, first order of things, laging saan natin dadalhin yung service.
Yeah.
Service is the first line of attack, and you know, as much as possible, you wanna send it to someone who's gonna shank the ball, and definitely, it's not gonna be Catarado.
It's not gonna be Catarado. No.
Definitely not.
100%. So we'll now move on to the blockers here.
Yes.
And the blocking, there have been a lot of great blocks here this conference, especially when you see the locals stepping up to the foreign reinforcements, and there's always a big battle in the net. So we're going to bring out the list here of the top blockers this conference. And leading the list is Remy Palma, followed by Ivy Laxina, and then Rosalind Doria. Again, all locals here in this list, Noreen. When you take a look at that, are there any big surprises for you? Are there any people that you're not surprised are on this list?
Not surprised, but like when you talked about Nunag playing so well, what about
Yes.
Remy Palma?
Yes.
I mean, when I saw her this contest, I'm like, she's so fit. She lost a lot of weight. She's in fighting form. And then she performs this way, being number one in blocking, being the top blocker. So for me, that in itself is a big reason, a big factor why Petrogas is in the semifinals. You know, given the previous conferences when they were struggling.
Yeah.
Because of players like Remy Palma stepping up and playing so much better.
And I think I wanted to add something. Si Remy, she visited FEU before the conference started. And I just remembered how, nga no, since college, this girl, this lady has been like all heart.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no matter how, say, fit she is in a season, in a conference, her heart would always be 100%. And that, I think that's what could bring them all the way to the finals and maybe win the chip.
I'm also a big fan of just seeing the close-ups of her and then just wondering how it feels to be staring right across her sa net because she
goodness.
looks so fierce. It's
And then
incredible.
she'll smile at you.
Oh, and then you don't know if you did something wrong.